Razorback Nation, good afternoon and welcome into this Sunday's Razor recap of Hawgs on the Hill, where we're going to cover this weekend's events in Razorback Nation. There's a lot of sweeping going on this weekend for the Diamond Sports. We're going to kind of talk the Razorback season in review and kind of, that now that's over, unfortunately, kind of how we felt that this season went and more on today's episode. But before we dive in, today's episode is brought to you by Scarlet Letter, Arkansas's very own handcrafted spiked seltzer. You can check them out today. And then if you're Northwest Arkansas, you can check out the Core Brewery Tap Room that just reopened with their new hour. So go check them out today, where you can get Scarlet Letter and all their various flavors. Jared's Kickin' Sauce, the perfect blend of sweet and spice to transform any meal, whether you're grilling burgers, roasting chicken, or just need a snack-worthy dip for crackers. Jared's Kickin' Sauce makes bland food good and good food great. Don't settle for ordinary. Kick it up a notch with Jared's Kickin' Sauce, your go-to sauce for every occasion. You can grab your bottle now at kickinsauce.com and let the flavor party begin. You can use Go Hawgs for 10% off that order as well. Me and Austin today, no Hobbs, has got some family stuff going on, so me and Austin here is going to carry the show this week. Lots happened over the weekend. Arkansas, you had on Thursday, Sweet 16 game. Unfortunately, Arkansas fell in that one. Then you had the big series this weekend, Arkansas on the road, baseball on the road, taking on Vandy. Our ladies in Arkansas softball taking on Kentucky here at home at Bogle. And portal season is here, and that craziness and madness is beginning as Arkansas has had its first entry into the portal today. We'll get into that in a little bit. But yeah, so you look at it, season one under John Calipari. You hit the little milestones of the season as, Cal comes in, builds this team in, roughly 6 months. We start the season, you go through non-conference play and for the most part do pretty well. I mean, you're not completely just blowing teams out of the water, but you're getting the wins, and, this team's learning to play together. Of course, that's going to be the case with any team that you're, where you're bringing in essentially a whole new team, a whole new starting five, things of that nature. You get to conference play. We know how all that started. Arkansas starts 0-5 in conference play. We hit February. Arkansas kind of goes on a run, has a real good February and end of the season, wins their first game in the SEC tournament. It makes the NCAA tournament as a 10 seed. And then, you go in, and the Hall of Fame corner, as we called it, where you had to go up against Bill Self. You get the win there after, you saw him in the preseason matchup early in the year. Mm-hmm. And then next up on the list, you got Rick Pitino, a guy that Cal knows very well from his time at Kentucky, gets the win there, and then makes it to the Sweet 16 after all of this, through all the injury issues Arkansas had, Boogie Flang going down, Adu Thero going down, Jonas not playing well through part of the season, Nelly Davis not playing well through part of the season. Yet with all these circumstances, this Arkansas Razorback team made it to the Sweet 16. And I think, to me, that's an impressive feat for this Arkansas team. Under year one, when at one point in the season, after that 0-5 start, things were looking very bleak for Arkansas. And a lot of fans were kind of getting ready to throw in the towel, but, Cal proved throughout the rest of the season that he still knows how to coach. Your thoughts there on Arkansas season and as we look back at it?
Yeah, you can't be disappointed with how it went. You can be disappointed with how the game ended. You can be disappointed about how it started, but throughout the journey, I mean, it's just an impressive feat what they did. The adversity they went through, all that, the trials and tribulations, whatever you want to call it, to be able to come out at the end and get to that Sweet 16 and have a chance to go to the Elite Eight. That's even though they kind of crapped the bed at the end of it, that's still impressive. And I was talking about expectations earlier, and like, you know, the thing with expectations is that they change with different circumstances. The expectations at the beginning of the year was probably to go to a Sweet 16, make it to the second weekend, and that's what they did. So they at least met expectations at that point. But in January, the expectations were maybe in an IT bid, right? And then you go into about halftime of this Texas Tech game, and the expectations were go to the Elite Eight. So it's just, no matter how you look at the season, they at least met expectations. And to be honest with you, knowing what we know now, I feel like they exceeded it, because we didn't know about how many times they were going to be injured, how many injuries were going to happen, or how they were going to affect the team, how the team was doing. With only 9 guys, with all the fans, the Kentucky fans just harping down on them because of their bad start. I mean, you got to understand that does something to people. So whenever they do have a bad start, why are you jumping in on it? Unless you're a Kentucky fan and you want them to have more of a bad start, why are you jumping in on it to make it even worse on them, right? This is what the whole you and I have talked about this. Like, I think social media is one of the worst things there is. I hate not being able to knock someone out whenever they talk smack to you. Like, you can go on social media and talk smack to people and not face any repercussions when you wouldn't do that in real life, and it still does something to those people that you're talking about. So it just to see them overcome all that and still come out and look like the team we thought they were going to be, and that's great. That's awesome. But here's the thing. I think Arkansas would have beat that Florida team yesterday. If Arkansas would have went to the Elite Eight, I feel like they'd be in the Final Four right now. And that hurts so freaking bad. It really does. And I'm not going to blame anybody for it. There were 10 or 11 things they could have done at the end of that Texas Tech game. But man, it hurts knowing that potentially they could be playing for a national championship.
Yeah.
So yeah, it hurts, but it is what it is. And it's not a bad season.
Yeah, I agree. It's one of those things where, yeah, it still stings a little bit, like to your point where, what if Arkansas would have managed things a little bit differently, got that win against Texas Tech, and then played Florida yesterday. And so, yeah, it's tough. But like you said, with all the things this team's went through, I think it's safe to say, Arkansas did make expectations, especially in year one. And it's like Triple R Bail Bonds here says, agree with the team in positive means all season, every day. And that's what you got to do. Everybody's not going to be able to play perfect and have a, insane, every game. I mean, heck, look at Nelly leaving it all out there in that game and having his easily best game of the season by far. And that's when you want the guys to have their best games in the tournament. Unfortunately, we did lose it, but I mean, he came to play and left it all out on the court, and that's the kind of Nelly that you thought you were getting. That was, that NCAA tournament Nelly from FAU that, came in. And so, yeah, it leaves a lot out there to wonder, be like, okay, if Arkansas would have made it past Texas Tech, what would they have done from then on? But, I've seen this question posed in many ways and across different platforms. Looking at this season, going forward, would you be willing to say, is this the worst season Cal will have at Arkansas?
I'm not going to say worst, because anything can happen, I don't think he's going to make the mistake of only having 9 guys again.
Right.
And the cool thing about this is that he kind of reached back to his UMass days, right? where they did struggle like that, and he still overcame some stuff. So he has that fresh on his mind, but he also has the success that he had at Kentucky and he had at Memphis. He has that kind of, I don't know what you would call it, profile about him to get these elite type people into the program. And then whenever they struggle, like he can just look, he say, hey, look, the first season I was here, they had it way worse than you. So let's get this going. Like if they can get through what they did, I know you guys can get through what you did. So it would be hard to say that this would be the worst season. Now I want to say that worst season doesn't mean worst outcome in the postseason, because he very well could go, 0-1 in the NCAA tournament, because it's just kind of a crapshoot. It just depends on who you match up with. Like, we want to talk about how Arkansas has gone to the Sweet 16 4 times in the last 5 years. A lot of those times with Musselman, we drew some pretty easy matchups where we kind of just over physical people. And then we ended up running into a buzzsaw with like Duke and Baylor and UConn. This time around, it wasn't that. We kind of should have won that game. But the matchup with Texas Tech, like I told you on, what was it, Wednesday, that if Arkansas played their game and made them play extremely fast and didn't let them get into their half-court offense type stuff, then Arkansas would win. And for the first 36 minutes, that's what they were doing. And then I don't know if they got tired, they slowed down or whatever, but they just weren't doing that anymore. And they let Texas Tech play their game, and boy, they shot the lights out. They just came back fast. And that's the thing with matchups. Sometimes you're a much better team than the team you're going up against, but they just do things that you don't defend very well. And Arkansas they defended the three well, just they've had problems like that in the past, and it kind of showed up again with Texas Tech. So that could very well happen with John Calipari next season or the season after. It really just depends on who you draw. But as far as the regular season goes, I think this will probably be the worst that he has.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point, too. You think about it, and that's like me thinking about that Texas Tech game. I was watching it, and, with how things were going, I was like, man, this is a great first half. I said, historically, the second half's not going to be fun to watch. If we've learned anything from this season of Arkansas basketball, whatever half is really good, the other one usually something's going to go weird in typical Arkansas fashion. And sure enough, Texas Tech started hitting their threes, which, the amount of bricks that they had in the first half, they could have built a house with. And then they turned that around in the second half. Arkansas started to struggle a little bit. And like you said, I don't know what it was in that last 4 minutes there. We had the 16-point lead. Did we kind of, quote unquote, let off the gas a little bit, get tired? And then, we kind of almost woke up, if you will, a little bit too late when it was right there as they were getting it tied, and we kind of fought back and, went to overtime, fought well in overtime, just unfortunately, right there at the end, even Kyle said it, probably should have taken a timeout right there at the end with, a few seconds left there. So, things to look back on, but to your point, yeah, each team that you have coming out is going to have things it's good against, bad against, great at defending, not great at defending, strengths and weaknesses. And that's what every coach tries to do, is go in and build a team that kind of has a multitude or great mix of guys that are good at some of these things and, others. And that way you can have a well-rounded team. And at the end of the day, this I'm happy with how this season's went, not how it ended, but as an overall arching look, I think you call it a successful season under Cal for year one. And especially, like you said, if you really look at it in detail, not just, oh yeah, we made the Sweet 16 and got beat out. But if you look into, the meat of it, if you will, and everything that this team had to endure, the adversity, the things that, like you said, Cal went back to, we talked about it, if you've seen any of that Vice documentary, it really gives you a great insight to this season. Like you said, going back to his UMass days and pulling out the refuse to lose motto, the mantra that he kind of instilled in this team throughout that stretch. So it'll be interesting to see. And, the biggest thing is I can't wait to see what these next few seasons are going to hold.
Hey, and the thing is, one of the big plays in that game against Texas Tech was where Elijah Hawkins hit that 3-point bucket. The only bucket he hit all day. Arkansas had him on lockdown. He just didn't have a great day. And you know what? The thing is about I keep saying the thing is, that's my Sam Pittman-ism. I don't remember what Sam Pittman says, like, gets everybody on the nerves, but the thing is mine, and it gets me on my nerves. But anyway, the thing is, like that whole game with St. John's and how Rick Pitino held out RJ Lewis. Held him out at the end because he wasn't playing good. I mean, take a note from right here. Elijah Hawkins wasn't playing very good. And then he hits that bucket. And it really, that's one of the reasons why Texas Tech got to go. And that's the thing. These players that might not be playing well all game can just hit you with that random three in that crunch time moment, and it hurts you. So whenever I'm talking about matchups, you're also talking about those individual matchups in the game too. So yeah, basketball is not nearly as like unpredictable as baseball, but it's like a mix between football and baseball with how that's why they play teams twice a year most of the time, because or why they have so many games, because it's hard to say who's the better team without having all these games. That's why they have series 5 out of 7 series for the NBA championship. So it's hard to say just one game at a time, because any game, any team can win. It's not like football. Football, you play one game against one opponent, usually 9 times out of 10 that team's going to win every time. So
yeah. So going forward, looking at it, and as we kind of look at some of the comments here, the real question now with portal season being here, and the question is returnees. What are we going to have coming back from this year? Triple R here says, if DJ Knox, Boogie return and Z puts on some weight matched, and we get another big man, watch out. I agree with Woo Pig here. He says Boogie's not coming back. He's expected to be a late first round pick from projections we've seen. That was updated and came out today. I do agree. We need Knox and Richmond and Z back, and hopefully Brazil as well. We'll have to wait and see in the next week or so to see what's going to happen, because that's what Cal said. If you watch his post game after Texas Tech game, he said, before I even start talking to guys in the portal, I'm meeting with my guys and seeing, hey, you can come back, you can go situation. Because if you look at it, you have 2 spots that you got to fill is, you're losing Nelly, you're losing Jonas. So you're going to want to bring in a shooter, you're going to want to bring in a big. So those are 2 positions, you got to go out and at least get 2 guys at minimum. Now you've got the freshman coming in, Acuff, Thomas. Thomas looks like to be a good shooter, scorer type 2 guard that kind of would be that Nelly replacement, I would almost say. And I agree here. It's a must. We got to go get some glass cleaners out of this upcoming portal, because the rebounding issues Arkansas had this year were very evident, and they managed to overcome a lot of those this year. But to really compete, I think you're going to need to go get a guy in that, hey, maybe he doesn't put up, crazy points, but he can come and get you 10 to 12 rebounds a game. That's what you need. And like Woo Pig says, we have another 2 projected lottery picks coming in, would we really want 3 ball dominant guards again, referencing if Boogie came back? And that's my thing. I'm not going to say I wouldn't love to have Boogie back, but looking at it going forward I don't know where you play him unless, because, with a lineup with Acuff and Thomas coming in, I don't know if I see Boogie starting. And then on the flip side of it, is Boogie willing to come off the bench if he comes back? Because that's not necessarily going to help his draft stock if he comes back and is coming off the bench. So does he go ahead and go when he could be, still a first round draft pick, mid to late first round? That's a lot of the conversation these guys are going to have with Cal and, see what the projections are. And, it's one of those things where these guys can declare, but still not necessarily go as long as they don't hire an agent. They can go test out the waters, go through the combine, whatever they want to do. And then kind of see what their options are. I mean, your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I mean, I don't necessarily agree that Boogie would come off the bench. He does have more, he does have more experience than those guys in college. And then he also has a whole offseason to, rehab and get back to it in his game. So he would probably start over Acuff, which is kind of hard to say because Acuff is one of the best recruits in this cycle. So you would probably start off by making someone mad somewhere. So, and the thing, if he goes in the late first round, he's still going to get some money, which would suck, but he's going to do fine. And then once he gets there, he can work on finishing at the rim, which he had a problem with this year, against some physical, front courts. He's going to have much more physical front courts in the NBA. So, he's got to work on that. And I think right now that's probably where it'd probably just be better for him to go into the NBA draft and just with who we have coming back, because Arkansas's backcourt, those guards, we're going to have a crap ton of guards. We're going to be fine at guards. We're always going to have good guards with Calipari. Front court is where I'm worried about. Like, we need someone to replace what's his name? Jonas Adu. And then if Adu Thiero goes, we're gonna have somebody to replace him. The thing is, well, what's his name? Brazil, he could potentially replace Thiero if he decides to come back. So yeah, I'm looking for those bigs. Like you said, we need someone to come in and clean the glass. Maybe have someone, 2 or 3 bigs, to be honest with you, because I don't know who else they have other than Big Z in maybe Brazil if he does come back. So in both of those are kind of on the table. We don't know. So that's where they're going to have to really build up this roster is with big guys. Because I want to see, instead of having 3 true bigs, I want to see like 4 or 5. 4 or 5 guys that are like 6'9" and taller. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, one guy you've got coming in, and I think I've seen that the plan is potentially to use him as a kind of not project player but development player, is the guy from overseas that we talked about a week or so ago. That he is a 4-5 type guy, but from what I've seen and what I've heard is that he might be a guy that's going to come on and be maybe similar to a Brazil guy that is going to come in and you develop him over a year or two and then go from there. So that's all what people think. When he comes in, and this team starts practicing and he's showing up and maybe he plays himself into a role. Who knows? You can never really tell until guys are on campus and starts working together and things like that. So, but all this is really tough to say until, you start having those official announcements from these guys about, you're going to see something in the form of, let's run it back again, or, I'm coming back. And video form, notes, screenshot posted, whatever it may be. You're going to get that from these guys, and hopefully we see that in this upcoming week or so. I don't know, how long these guys will take to make it known, but I'm sure Cal's kind of being like, hey, I kind of need to know because, I'm going to start doing work in the portal, if you will. And these guys, there's already plenty of guys in the portal. You're going to have some continuously jump in as, they get knocked out of the tournament, and that's getting less and less because you're down to, just a handful of teams left. But so I'm sure Kyle's been working on that since they got back from San Francisco.
Yes, and I think that I would be very surprised if one of the 9, like I guess 7 guys who played and still have eligibility, I would be very surprised if they transferred out. I think they kind of grew as a team. They had that kind of bond, and they had that bond with John Calipari. So I don't think they're going to transfer out. I'd be very, very surprised if, say, a Carter Knox or a Billy Richmond decided to transfer out. Heck, I think it'd be weird if Trevor Brazil tried to transfer out. But those guys, like, they already have one guy who's transferring, Casimir Chavez. I think that's how you say his last name.
Yeah.
And that came out a couple hours ago that he's in the transfer portal. And the thing that's, those were just the bench, or not bench players, but practice squad players, basically. So
he saw action in one game this year. That to just context that. So
yeah. So you're going to see some names go out that you don't necessarily know who they are. You're going to be like, I don't know who that guy is. And that's fine, because he's going to replace those people with some people in the portal. The big question is who is going to the draft and who's not. And you have some guys that you think you're pretty sure you're going to come back, and then you have those guys that are kind of teetering, and then the guys that you are 99% sure they're going to be gone. So that's what we got to look for. And then just keep your eye out for people who are coming to visit. Not necessarily transfer yet, because it's going to take a minute for him to start getting some people, but follow like Joe Timpton on X. He's on top of everything. So if you want to know your portal stuff, I have my notifications set for him, so I just get everything that he posts.
I was about to say, it seems like the man doesn't sleep.
Yeah, I don't understand how he does that. He's on top of it.
Yeah. But yeah, to your point, that's a lot to think about too. And for me, the one guy that I'm looking at that to me is a 50-50 guy on, I could realistically see him back on this Arkansas team, but I could realistically see him gone, whether that's more than likely portaling or even testing the NBA waters, is DJ Wagner. He's a guy that, you saw him come on late this season in that true point guard, floor general type of role, especially having to step up with Boogie going down. Really came into his own late in the season, playing well. You'd like to see his 3-point percentage up a little bit, but, down the stretch played really well for Cal and the Hawgs. And he's a guy that, when I say 50-50, he's an experienced guard that's coming back. Yeah, he may not have lived up to the hype that he got when he came in and as a freshman at Kentucky. But he's a guy I could see come in and bring great leadership to this team, really mentor these young guys coming in next year. And I think for him, it would be, would he be willing to, is he committed enough to Cal that he would come off the bench for this team? Or, and maybe not necessarily come off the bench, but as kind of Malik Thomas and Darius Acuff are getting up to speed, working with those, maybe he starts some at the beginning, and as these guys come on, it flips and he's, the sixth man, something like that. Or does Cal, being a player's type of coach, be like, listen, I would love for you to stay, run it back with us. But I understand if you want to go somewhere to help your draft stock and kind of be the guy somewhere else, to go ahead and go. And that's why I say I'm a little bit torn there, because I could see both scenarios happening.
Yes, I don't see that what do you call it? I don't see him transferring because of the legacy part. His dad was under him, so he wants to probably be under him. I would say he would either try a shot at the NBA draft or come back. And I think he probably played himself into a very good situation towards down the stretch of this season. I don't know if he would actually be drafted. If he would, it would be very, very late round, second round. But I don't once the draft is over, I doubt he would last very long in free agents as a free agent, because he's just a very good. He's a very good point guard, and to try and make him play the 2 for the first part of the season, I think it threw him off. And that's why I think if he comes back, I don't think he's going to be on the bench either, because he's got a lot of experience, right? What I think he would do is I think he would probably put him at the point, and then Acuff at the 2, and then Thomas at the 3. And that's probably where he would go, and then probably rotate. Whenever DJ needed a break, he put Acuff at point, and then Thomas at 2, and then maybe go bigger, put a bigger guy at that 3, or however he wants to do it. But if he stays, I don't think he would be. I don't think he would ride the bench, or not ride the bench, but you know what I'm saying. I don't think he would come off the bench.
Yeah,
he's got way too much experience now. He's got a lot of that. He's got a good eye for being like a floor general, right? What you want as a point guard. I feel like he's got that. And you kind of saw it once Boogie went down, then he started taking the reins. So I don't think you could afford to put him, have him come off the bench, really.
yeah. And I can see that perspective too. The only thing that I'm worried about, and you mentioned it earlier, is are you going to start getting some guys upset now? Because you think if you say that scenario plays out, he comes back and you start him at the 1, Acuff at the 2, Thomas at the 3. Well, ideally, if DJ didn't stay, you're either starting probably Carter Knox or Billy Richmond at the 3. So that bumps them out of some playing time. And that's not even counting if you go out and get, one of these, shooters that you're wanting to get out of the portal too. And so that's where the balancing act as a coach that Cal's got to figure out what's going to be best for his team next season. A, we've already established you want the depth. You need the depth because this year we struggled at times. But B, he mentioned it, and I forgot what press conferences was. He mentioned that he learned that this era of college basketball is different, where he's not going to do like he historically has, where he goes out and just has 5, 6, 7, 8, 4 or 5-star freshmen. But he's going to have a few because that's, he said that's how he likes to build his teams. So then this allows you to have some depth back and some experienced guys. And so that's going to be the juggling act that Cal's going to have to do. And I'm sure that's a big part of these meetings that he's having with these players about, hey, here's kind of my idea of what next year is going to look like with what we've got coming in. Here's what your part would be if you come back. Here's how we would kind of utilize this and that. And so, I don't envy Cal with having to kind of make those decisions, have those conversations, and kind of piece together all that roster building that he's going to have to do. I mean, I know as a coach, it's going to be fun for him, but it's a fickle thing to do these days with with these players, NIL, and all of that stuff. It'll be interesting to see where all this lines up for sure.
Yeah, and he kind of had that luxury this year. Like he didn't have to make those choices. Everybody had to play.
Yeah.
There was no hurt feelings there. And these guys are going to have to learn that, whoever is going to be the best person is going to play.
Right.
And if that doesn't mean they're going to have great games every single game either. So like, if it's your time to go in, make the best out of your opportunity. So I don't know. We'll just have to see, because it's too much to juggle in our minds when we don't even know who's coming back yet. But it's fun to think about, but I don't know. But anyway, they're gonna have guys next year, and that's all you need. You need guys who can play, and how it shakes out, how the roster, how the starting five goes, and who gets what's minutes, that's going to take care of itself once the season starts.
Right. And so, with that, it is portal season. So, we'll keep you up to date with what we hear. I think the biggest thing that is going to be step one that we're going to be figuring out within the next probably week or so, I would say, is who's coming back. That's going to be initial of what we'll hear to report to you guys as these guys kind of make their announcements and make it known what they're going to do. And then part two of that is, once that's out there, who's actually on campus for a visit. I did see it was reported that I believe it was Cleef Hall, the transfer from UCF, was setting up Zoom calls with his coaching staff. So that's a name out there as well. A guy that plays kind of that 3-4 spot, is kind of almost like a dude Thero type player. And then, of course, like Austin mentioned earlier in the show, is Tuesday's big day. Nate Ament will let everybody know where he is going to play at least 1 year of college basketball. And, Arkansas had a late surge in getting him on campus for that Mississippi State game, the last regular season game of the year for Arkansas. And, does Cal have a few cards up his sleeve to maybe pull off a flip, if you will, even though he's not committed? But, originally the final thoughts were it was Duke, Kentucky, Louisville, those type of places. And here comes Arkansas, starting to be mentioned a little bit. They're trying to get him on campus, and all of a sudden, he's on campus. The visit goes well. We brought in Darius Acuff on that visit as well that same weekend to kind of, play the right-hand man of Cal and recruiting him here. And so we'll find all that out on Tuesday, as that will be the commitment time for Nate Ament. And then from there, it'll be who heads to Arkansas out of the portal. So it's going to be fun to watch these next few weeks. It's going to be a wild ride. Hopefully not as crazy as what football was this year and has been over the past couple of seasons. But I'm excited to see what we're going to build for year 2 of Coach Cal.
Yeah, I'm excited, man.
It's going to be a fun one. But to keep the excitement going, as we transition over, Arkansas baseball had a heck of a weekend themselves, getting the series sweep in Nashville. Like Triple R says here, broke out the broom against the Vandy boys. You got to like it. Arkansas gets it done this weekend, sweeping back-to-back SEC series with South Carolina last weekend, Vanderbilt this weekend. And they got it started on the right note with the Friday game on shutting out Vandy 9-0. And this one, we've seen Arkansas do this, and I think you're starting to see week in, week out, Zach Rue get more comfortable in that Friday night type of role. And, he had himself another good outing here as he went 7 2/3 in this one. 3 hits, no runs, 3 walks, 7 strikeouts on 100 pitches. So going a majority of this game. Then you had Aiden Jimenez come in just 1/3, faced 1 batter, 3 pitches, got the out. And then Dylan Carter comes in for the final inning here. 1 walk, 1 strikeout for him on 13 pitches. Arkansas gets the win 9-0. Offensively, the great leadoff man that we've talked about all season, Charles Davalon, continues his hitting streak, and this one goes 1 for 3 with a run scored. Cahillo 1 of 5 with an RBI. Logan Maxwell, 2 for 4 with 3 runs scored and RBI. Brent Iredale, 1 run scored. Cam Kozel. This is the guy that won the weekend for Arkansas. Cam Kozel in his return to Vanderbilt, where he transferred from last year, and you knew he wanted to win this one big, and he sure played like it. In game 1, he goes 3 of 5 with 5 RBIs and 2 runs scored, and hits 2 home runs in game 1 for Arkansas. His
he
return,
had 3 home runs in his entire career at Vanderbilt. He hit 2 last night. Like
I was about to say,
sweet.
extra motivated there. So, that was the big story of the weekend. Ryder Helfrich, 1 of 3 in Friday's game. Justin Thomas, 1 of 4. You look at it, and great game. Arkansas started off and start off the weekend in great form with this big win, to kind of set yourself up with, all right, in the mentality of, all right, we got game 1 now. Now we only got one more to get this series. And, Arkansas did hit a fair amount of home runs this weekend, but, they also got a lot of singles, as Austin likes it. His baseball.
Let's go. All you need is 4 singles to have a run, right? That's all you need.
Exactly. And so, Arkansas gets that big win there. You jump to game 2, where Arkansas wins this in much a closer game here, 6-4, where you had Gabe Geckel get the start. We've talked about it in, the previous few weeks, kind of week in, week out. Is Geckel really set to be a starter this season, or does he kind of need to go back to the pen? Not a terrible outing for him in this game. Goes 5 2/3, 6 hits, 2 runs, both those earned, 7 strikeouts for him on 92 pitches. So, a decent outing for Geckles. He's kind of, I feel like, calming down, or kind of
getting to the rhythm of things.
Getting into rhythm as the season's gone in that Saturday role, and I think that's probably a good spot for him. 5 2/3, you're happy to get that out of your starter. Whereas kind of you're seeing Zach Root emerge as kind of the ace of this group. His past 2 starts, 7 innings against South Carolina in a run rule game, and then 7 2/3 in this game. So he's able to go deep, and he's getting the job done for you there. And then you had Carson Wiggins come in relief. This one's one that I think surprised a lot of people that he was brought in this spot. Comes in for an inning. No hits, allows a run, 2 walks, 1 strikeout for him on 27 pitches. Then Aiden Jimenez finishes things up for Arkansas, another guy that's been kind of up and coming in this bullpen and as a reliever. He transferred in from Oregon State after, sitting out last year due to injury. A guy coming in, they didn't think he might be ready for the start of the season, and he was ahead of schedule. We saw him play in some of the, spring practices, and getting some work versus live batters. And then, you see him week in and week out getting a little bit more work under his boots. And he came in 3 1/3 in this one, 3 hits, 1 run, 4 strikeouts for him on 57 pitches, close it out for Arkansas in a close one where not as high-scoring game in this one as, you still had the bats going, but, your pitching was, okay, and it did enough to get the job done. You jump back over. Charles Davalon continuing that hit streak in this one, 1 for 5 in this one. Vahiva Lloyd, 2 for 5 with a run scored. Logan Maxwell, 1 of 5 with a run scored. Kahio Aloy, 1 for 4. Brent Iredale, 2 for 4 with 2 runs scored and an RBI. Cam Kozel, he continues in this one, 1 for 4 with 3 RBIs and a run scored. Hits another home run, so he hits 3 in 2 games in his return trip to Vandy. Is like Austin pointed out, he hit 3 all season last year for Arkansas or for Vandy, and he has 3 in 1 weekend. So he's really coming into his own as a starter at first base here for Arkansas. No hits for Ryder Helfrich, no hits for Souza. Justin Thomas, 1 for 4 with a run scored, an RBI. Had a big home run that put Arkansas back in the lead in this one. And so, Arkansas gets this done. Here's the series here on Saturday. And then so going into today, you're looking for the sweep. And, sure enough, that's what Arkansas done today as they won 7-3 with Landon Battlecheese getting the start here. And the surprise in this one, you used 2 pitchers today. Landon Battlecheese going 5 innings, 6 hits, 3 runs, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts on 86 pitches. And who would have known? Ben Bybee, a guy that we talked about, just a few weeks ago as being maybe a guy that you're only going to see as a midweek starter, maybe a few innings here and there in the weekend. He finishes the game going 4 innings, allowing only 2 hits, 1 walk, and 7 strikeouts on 62 pitches. He has very much emerged as a potentially key piece in this Arkansas bullpen with the experience he has under his belt and coming out and, also saving some arms in the bullpen. The less innings, the less pitches you have on these arms sets you up for, hopefully, knock on wood, quote unquote, success down the stretch because your guys don't have as many innings on their arms, as many pitches. And, to see a guy that's been around for a while start to have the success is also great, especially when you can come out and do this on a Sunday afternoon where you're trying to go for a sweep. You've already got the series secured. And it's like, hey, here's your opportunity to go out there and show us what you can do in this one. We got the lead. Vandy did fight back and tie things up and take the lead at one point, but the Bats got things done in this one where Charles Davlon, you can't ask for a better leadoff hitter in the country than what he's doing right now for Arkansas. 2 of 5 today with 3 RBIs, 2 runs scored. He hits 2 home runs today in this game. And then a hitless game for Vahiva Loy. You're not going to see that very often. Maxwell, 1 hit, 1 run scored on 3 at-bats with 1 RBI. He hits a home run today as well. No hits from Cahillo. Brent Iredale, 2 for 4 with a run scored. Cam Kozel, 1 of 3 with a run scored. Helfrich, no hits with 1 run scored. Nolan Souza, 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs. Justin Thomas, 1 for 4 with a run scored. So when, you see it up and down this lineup as, hey, one guy maybe not having his best day, you have others step up, and then you also have consistent guys. Charles Davlon being your consistent leadoff hitter that has extended his hitting streak. You have Cam Kozel stepping up in his return where he might have had a chip on his shoulder, returning to a place where, he played last year. And it's like the announcers were talking about during the game, commentators, on even though they weren't the best of the weekend, they were talking about how, he showed he can play in the SEC as a freshman last year at Vandy. He still hit in the top high 200s last year as a freshman in his playing time at different positions, DHing and whatnot. And, coming over to Arkansas, he is definitely, I feel like, benefiting from coming over and getting more of a consistent playing time role where, that first base spot was one that was kind of in question going into the season. He's kind of really taken charge of that position thus far into the season.
Yeah, and the thing about this team that is different than the last, 3 or 4 years is that Arkansas isn't necessarily winning all these games on the backs of their on the mound, right? They're not an incredibly good defensive team. Like, they're adequate. They're decent. And especially the first, Root, he's a great ace for this team. I think that it was probably, I don't know what they were seeing in Gackle at practice, but it just kind of feels like that it was a mistake putting him on Friday instead of Root. But they got that switched up. It's all good. But they're just like killing it at the plate right now. And if you'd have told me that this time last year, that Arkansas would flip the script going into the 2025 season, I'd be like, that's kind of a crazy thing to ask, especially where they don't really bring a whole lot in, but they brought those like 3 or 4 key guys who were just killing it right now. The thing is, the pitching isn't horrible either. You got like Aiden Jimenez coming in a relief role when he has the talent to be a starter. I mean, he was a starter at Oregon State, right? He just had that injury, and now he's battling through that, and he's coming back. And that's such a luxury to have 4 or 5 guys who are talented enough to start that play in relief for you.
Right.
And then you got, like you said, Bybee. I don't know, because I don't remember him doing like super great against Missouri State, but I feel like whatever he saw, whatever Dave Van Horst saw on him in the midweek this week, and decided to take a chance on him and put him out there for to close on Friday. I mean, it worked. 4 innings, 62 pitches, and no runs. I mean, that's some pretty good stuff. 7 strikeouts. I mean, dude was throwing it. So, yeah, this team is just, it surprised me how I don't want to say balanced, because I feel like their hitting is just really good, but in the season where they kind of struggle, Arkansas, the Arkansas standard for struggle from the mound, because they're still like, if you put this bullpen on any other team in the country, they're going to be ecstatic with it. With Arkansas, we've been spoiled, right? We've had amazing pitching for years. So whenever it kind of dips a little bit, for the bats to like just overwhelmingly take over games, sometimes that is, dude, it's awesome to see. And as someone who was not very happy with Arkansas hitting coach the last few years, I am super happy with what he's doing. And it just took a little bit of a different approach. And what do you know? Now they're like 7, 8, 9 runs a game. That's what, I don't know what their average is. I'll have to look, but just I'm excited to see how the rest of the season goes, because you could have a scenario where Arkansas they just win every season in the SEC, and then they play Tennessee at the end, where Tennessee wins every SEC series, and now you're playing for that 1 or 2 spot. Pretty much you're playing for the SEC championship right here in Fayetteville. All right, they're playing in Fayetteville, right?
Yes,
I'm pretty sure. So that's just primetime stuff. And it's getting me excited for it. But right now, Tennessee, Arkansas, 2 best teams in the country. You can't really, I don't feel like there's 1 and 2 and then everybody else right now.
Right, exactly. And it's like you bounce back from, like we just talked about on Thursday, is, yeah, you dropped the midweek, but I think everybody's forgot about that now. When you get the series sweep back-to-back weekends, and you're even getting the attention of like Kendall Rogers from D1. He said, "What a weekend for Arkansas sports. The Hawgs do a clean sweep of Vanderbilt for the first time since 2005. So Dave's gotten series wins at Vanderbilt, but he hasn't swept Vanderbilt since 2005. So
yeah, and he did it in Nashville this time.
Yeah, in Nashville. 20 years since Arkansas has swept Vanderbilt. That's insane. And that just also notes how good Vanderbilt is, what the programs they've built. Tim Corbin at Vandy, they were talking about it today before the game started. He's the only active D1 coach that has 2 titles right now that's still coaching, back in 2014 and 2019 with Vandy. And then he mentioned Ben Bybee with 7 strikeouts and 4 shutout innings. Davalon had a pair of homers and 3 RBIs for Arkansas today. Like, these national media people are really starting to take notice of, what this Arkansas team's doing. Like you said, Arkansas historically has been spoiled with great pitching and, a few adjustments, some recruiting in the offseason. And, man, look at these guys that you've brought in from the transfer portal and how that's reshaped your offense. Yeah, we're still hitting home runs. That's what Arkansas historically does. But if you notice, a lot of our home runs we're hitting aren't necessarily just solo shots. They're 2-3 run home runs because we're hitting singles, doubles, and getting guys on base. And I think a big point to this was, we talked about it a week or so ago, I believe, was having Nate Thompson in the dugout. That seems to have made a world of difference for this team compared to when he was coaching third base. Now he's in the dugout with these guys. He's watching these pitchers, and he can see things. And as this guy is about to go up there, perfect example, first SEC series, when he talked to Vahiva about Ole Miss, he pulled him aside. Whatever he said worked. What did Vahiva do? Go up there, first pitch, puts it over the wall. And so I think it's been a significant difference having him in the dugout to talk to these hitters, notice what he's seeing and, maybe tendencies from the pitchers, pitch sequence, whatever it may be. And I think you're seeing the value of having him in the dugout instead of coaching third base.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a plus. But they kind of said it from the end of last season to like through fall ball and all that stuff, is that they've really changed their approach. Trying to not hit for, the fence every single time. And I don't know, man, just a little bitty tweak. And we've said this. I don't know if you said it because I wasn't on the podcast then, but all last season, I'm like, dude, all they have to do is change it up just a little bit, and they could really, really just start raking in these runs. And the runner in running runners in scoring position, hitting with runners in scoring position, I was like, this is where Arkansas is failing. Like, they have a decent batting average. They just can't hit whenever they have someone on second and third. And it just didn't make any sense to me. And whatever they've done, whatever little bit of change they've done this offseason, boy, it's made a world of difference. So yeah, just hats off to all of them. I don't know how they swish it like that.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's going to be interesting to see as the rest of the season unfolds. Like we talked about, you got Missouri coming back this weekend, back in town, and then, you got a couple other series, and then you enter that tough end of the season stretch where you're going to have back-to-back games with Texas, LSU, and Tennessee. That's going to be the real tough test of the season, and, it's going to be fun to watch that. But as you jump over to the other Arkansas Diamond, your Arkansas Lady Razorbacks at Bogle got things done against Kentucky this weekend, coming off of a series win against top-ranked Tennessee. They come back home and defend Bogle against the Kentucky Wildcats, and they opened the game on Friday with a 5-3 win, as Peyton Burnham got the start on Friday in the circle, going 4 1/3, 6 hits, 3 runs, 3 walks, and 5 strikeouts for her on 86 pitches. Robin Heron, 2 2/3 for her, 1 hit allowed, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts for her on 53 pitches. This pitching staff's done a phenomenal job for Coach Deifel this season and coming back. And then, you can't forget about the bats as well for what this team is doing. Bree Ellis has been a absolute monster at the plate for this Arkansas squad, and along with, so those the freshmen you got coming in, or the freshmen that came in as well that are contributing a lot, and then and not to mention your returners as well, other than Bree Ellis. So, if you just look at the lineup here, Reagan Johnson, your center fielder, 2 of 4 with a run scored. Reagan Kramer, 1 of 3 with a run scored. Bree Ellis, a run scored. Courtney Day, run scored with an RBI. Kaylee Wyckoff, 2 for 3 with a run scored, 2 RBIs. Ella McDowell, 0 for 2 in this game. Italia Rijo, your shortstop, 1 of 3 with 2 RBIs for her. So, up and down this lineup, they continue to excel and find ways to win. And it's like the baseball lineup we were talking about. A different day, a different person can hurt you in this Arkansas lineup. Yeah, some somebody may have an off day, but somebody else is stepping up. And that leads us to jump over to game two, where Arkansas won 10-2 in a run rule game, where Arkansas now sits at 17 run rules on the season, most in program history. In this one, you saw Robin Heron starting this one. She went 4 innings, allowed 7 hits, 2 runs, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts on 60 pitches. And then Reese Burling comes in for that final inning, going 13 pitches and getting 1 strikeout to end the game for Arkansas. On the offensive side of things, Reagan Johnson, 2 of 4, 2 runs scored. Reagan Kramer, 2 of 3 with 2 runs scored and RBI. Bree Ellis, 1 of 2 with 1 run scored and 2 RBIs. Courtney Day had herself a day, going 1 of 2 with 2 runs scored and 2 RBIs. Kaylee Wyckoff, 1 of 3, a run scored and RBI. We're just repeating a lot of these numbers because up and down this lineup for this Arkansas softball team, they're finding great success. And, Ella McDowell, 1 of 2 with 2 RBIs. We just talked about it. The previous game, she went 0 for 2 from the plate. So, different people stepping up. Carly Davidson, 1 of 2 with 1 run scored, 1 RBI. And it's fantastic to see. So Arkansas secured that series on Saturday. And then you come into today's game where they won 2-1 in a close matchup here, where Reese Burling got the start, 4 innings for her, 1 hit, 1 run, 1 walk, and 3 strikeouts on 61 pitches. And then Peyton Burnham comes in to close things out. The final 3 innings, allowing 2 hits, 2 walks, 1 strikeout on 40 pitches. On the offensive side of things, a little bit quieter day. Reagan Johnson goes 3 for 4 with a run scored. Reagan Kramer goes 0 of 3. Bree Ellis 0 of 1 with an RBI. Courtney Day 0 of 1 with 2 walks. Kaylee Wyckoff 0 for 3. Ella McDowell 2 for 3 with a run scored and an RBI. And Carly Davidson 2 of 2 with a walk. And so not as high-powered offense today, but they still find ways to get it done in a close one to sweep the Kentucky Wildcats as they continue success they're having this season, as the softball team comes out of this weekend sitting at a nice 26-7, 6-6 in conference play, getting ready for a road trip to Florida to take on the Florida Gators this next weekend. And then your baseball team is, like we mentioned, coming back. They'll have a midweek game against Grambling in Little Rock. Note, this game will be in North Little Rock at Dickey-Stevens Park. And then they'll be back up on the hill for a 3-game series against Missouri, with not a great season that they've had so far. So
Missouri's kind of like another midweek, if we're being honest. Like, Missouri is whatever, like, the bottom dweller is, whatever is below that. So that's what Missouri baseball is in the SEC.
Yeah, so Arkansas gets that this weekend, and then next week, kind of looking ahead just a little bit, they will have a midweek against Arkansas State here in Fayetteville. So another interstate matchup. We saw them play UCA last week or a couple weeks ago, and then now they'll be playing Arkansas State before they go on the road to take on Georgia. So as we kind of get ready to get wrapped up here, it's going to be a fun next few weeks as portal seasons here for Arkansas basketball. Baseball and softball are rolling. We're in the heart of the SEC schedule and the slate. A lot more baseball and softball talk as kind of basketball seasons ended here. And we'll keep you up to date on portal news and whatnot. And if we hear any football news, be some shorter shows in the next few weeks as kind of things are winding down other than those 2 sports. Reach out, let us know if there's anything you want us to talk about or dive into the Razorback related. And so, as Joe says here, hit that like button before you get out of here and we get out of here. A thing to note, I got the update in the game in the game between Auburn and Michigan State. Janiah Broom went down injured in that game. I don't know if he has come back yet. but that is development to watch. And that game is, I am kind of rooting for Michigan State in this one. I would love to see that happen there. Quick update for the Hogs on the Hill Bracket Challenge, as we still have that going on. And like I said, winner will get their very own Hogs on the Hill shirt. And currently sitting in first place is Mike Cole with Florida as his champ, sitting at an 83% correct on his bracket, or tied for first. Sorry. Two-way tie for first between Mike and my wife, that she has once again picked a fantastic bracket. Sitting in third, B. Young, but not sure he's going to advance much further with his selection. Tennessee getting knocked out today. You've got two more tied for fourth. Clueless Hog by E-Power and Gabriel G's. They both have Houston picked to win. And then I'm sitting in sixth place. Where are you at down here, Austin?
Oh, I'm all the way at the bottom, bro. 25th.
Oh, yeah, that's right, because you had Arkansas pick.
Yeah, this was my fun one, right? I just picked Arkansas to do it. And yeah, the thing is, Arkansas was so close. I'm just saying, they were so close, and it hurt so bad and I would have looked like a genius if that would have happened. But
and you got Hobbs in a four-way tie for 14th, with his winner of Florida still picked up there. So all of us have got Florida picked, still have a chance. You know, you've got Houston that still in there as well. Couple people picked Duke. One person in our bracket picked Auburn to win. A few more Houstons. So still a chance for some people, but it's going to be close, and we'll keep you guys updated on that. So as we get ready to wrap up, anything else from you, Austin, before we get out of here?
Nah, man, I think I'm good.
All right. Well, we'll keep you up to date. We've got our next live event. We'll let you know as we're planning that. It'll be coming up the weekend of the Texas A&M series. I think we've talked about it, but our buddy Hobbs is going to be in Fayetteville for that weekend for that SEC series. And so we're going to have a special live event since he's in town as well. And we'll keep you guys up to date on that as well. But as we get ready to get out of here, don't forget to like and subscribe to the show on YouTube, Apple Podcast, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcast. And make sure on YouTube you hit that bell so you know anytime we go live, you won't miss a single second of it. So for Austin, myself, we're going to get it out of here. Everybody have a great beginning of your week. We will be back on Thursday. We'll keep you up to date. Tuesday is going to be an important day to watch because it will be Nate Ament Commitment Day. So hopefully that goes in Arkansas's favor. But so until we see you on Thursday, we're going to get out of here. Everybody have a great beginning of your week, and we'll see you later.